The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios.
Hi, this is Mia Mosinzia, also known as Mia No Time for Love. Check out my latest book, Missing, available in print and ebook formats on Amazon.
It's now time for the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartradio, YouTube, iTunes, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and themikewagnershow.com. Mike brings you great guests and interesting people from all across the globe. So sit back, relax, and enjoy another great episode of the Mike Wagner Show.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget, Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Mosinzia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Mosinzia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is an illusion and those you love will be the first to go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Mosinzia has garnered great reviews and even endorsed by Hollywood celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today before it goes missing by Mia Mosinzia. Available on Amazon. Also, check out The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com on over 30 podcast platforms, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartradio. Also, Anchor FM, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Audible, Apple Music, and your favorite platform and more. Take us with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to The Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. And don't forget to follow The Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com and check out The Mike Wagner Show podcast. T-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, makes great gifts 24/7. Amazon.com at the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Mosinzia for great books like Missing, Once, and Wrinkles. Also T-shirts, pop sockets, phone cases, lots of cool merchandise for family and friends. Amazon.com/Mia Mosinzia. Also support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM as well as PayPal and the MikeWagnerShow.com. Make sure you donate generously today. We're here with a terrific lady who is a facilitator, marketing business development strategist. She is also a public speaker, a podcaster. She'll talk about the podcast coming up. And most importantly, she's a best-selling author, and she's focused on the business and, yes, of writing people, and of course, purpose, and also potential and profits. It's, of course, the 4 Ps across the generations at work. And, of course, she'll be covering all the cross generations and also the development of it. And she also has some books on Amazon. Most importantly, we'll be talking about the book You Can't Google, the compelling case of cross-generational conversation at work, and talk about why that's so important. And she's also a co-host of Legendary Makers at Work podcast, and she's also the champion of the workplace, cross-generational conversations and collaboration. So if you want to get leveled, this is a lady you want to refer to. Live, ladies and gentlemen, from the Plus Studios in beautiful downtown New York City, the amazingly multi-talented facilitator, marketing, business specialist, podcasting host, and the author of You Can't Google It, Phyllis Weiss Haserot. Phyllis, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, it's good afternoon or almost good evening here. I'm in New York. I'm delighted to be here. Mm-hmm. And I know we're going to have a lively conversation.
Oh, very lively indeed. And of course, I can tell that you're ready to, take this to the next level. So you're a facilitator and marketing business development strategist, and you're also a public speaker, podcaster. You also have your own, you're a co-host of the Legendary Makers at Work podcast, and you're also a best-selling author. So I'm sorry?
The name of the podcast is Legacy Makers.
Legacy Makers. Work. Okay. All right. Right. Okay, I was going to get that straight, but I'm glad we managed to connect on that one too. So we'll talk more about connecting in just a minute. And you also got a book called You Can't Google It, The Compelling Case of Cross-Generational Conversation at Work. You also had some other books. And before we get into all that, Phyllis, tell us how you first got started.
Well, I always say, how long do you have? I actually started as an urban planner, and that's what I have my master's in. And it took me a long time to figure out how I got from urban planning to focusing on the future of the workplace, and especially on generations. So we'll get into that, and diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, which is what I'm really focusing on now. But I realized that I was more business oriented than a lot of the people in the field, when I was in urban planning. That's changed over time. But so I decided I wanted to work in marketing and business development. And I took a lot of the skills that I had been using even as a planner, because the last company that I worked for and became vice president, a young vice president, I have to say, I was also speaking, I was writing, I was doing market research for our clients. And so I figured I knew some things about that. And so, as I say, I'll leave out a lot of the details, but I did start trailblazing actually on marketing and business development for professional firms. And this was in the early days when that was legal, because prior to a Supreme Court decision in 1977, Bates versus the state of Arizona, no licensed professionals were allowed to market, sell, do PR, do advertising, do anything but respond to clients' requests to work for them. And this Supreme Court decision changed that for everything. Now, planners were also licensed professionals, lawyers, accountants, architects, engineers, doctors, dentists, everything that was a licensed professional. So getting in, not in 1977, but the middle 80s, I was really kind of inventing what could be done as we went along. And I really enjoyed that. And my first book, The Rainmaking Machine, was written because a legal publisher, had asked me to write a book, and I was never thinking about writing a book. So that was sort of an accidental or incident thing that happened. Although I realized recently that I actually became a paid writer in the 7th grade.
Wow, really? How'd you do that?
Well, I entered, and were asked by our teachers to enter a contest that the Chamber of Commerce in New York was holding. And so I won the 3rd prize in the 7th grade.
Nice.
Of either, I don't remember if it was New York or Manhattan. And we got this big ceremony at the Chamber of Commerce, and we were given cash.
Nice.
So I got $8.
Wow, that's something for 7th grade. Wow.
No, I mean, that was unexpected. We didn't, but it occurred to me when I was speaking to a library group a few months ago that's when I became a paid writer. And that didn't happen again till The Rainmaking Machine.
Wow.
So anyway, I realized that I got into organizational effectiveness because I realized that organizations were not more effective than they are because of how people interact or don't with each other. Often don't. Okay. So I then got a certificate in dispute resolution and really liked the idea of mediating, but I was doing that already for clients that I had. And in 1997, told you this was a long story.
It's okay. I love this story. This is amazing.
In 1997, I realized with especially the professional firms that I was working with as a consultant and coach and facilitator and all these things, running meetings for them, and a lot of strategy, that the young people were not getting the attention they needed because the senior people were too busy. So I started next generation groups and programs in some law firms and accounting firms that I was working with. Okay. And that was from mid-level partners on down to mid-level, well, actually junior partners and down to mid-level associates, and help them to figure out where they wanted their practice to be in 5 years. What new thing that wasn't going on did they want to get into and bring to their firms? And so we did plans, and I coached them to go to management to get permission to do this. And they got budgets. And actually some of them became partners earlier than they thought because of it. But the idea was to get management and the people that reported to them to really be talking to each other about what expectations were on both sides, and to pay attention to what was important to them. And also, even before the management piece, where I brought them into some meetings together, the idea was to get people who were not ones that they were working with all the time, but their peers who might have potential clients that they couldn't serve because it wasn't their expertise. And so then the two people, the one with the expertise and the one with the contact, could get together and market together and put in the client. And the person with the contact would feel confident that the person who was going to do the work would really be doing it and not having some partners looking over their shoulder and saying, I want you to do my work.
So it's almost like the old school management in a way is just like, you do this my way. And then you got the like Generation X, Generation Y, millennials. It's like, hey, let's come together, or here's my idea. I want you sponge on it. It sounds like, the way it was done back in the day was very archaic, and they're like, what do we do? It was like totally new to them.
Yeah, well, it's unfortunately not so much back in the day. It's funny, but the things that I've written about, 20 years ago or more, so much of it hasn't changed. It's very slowly, but that's the way it is. So I then got frustrated with how slow things were going when I got because of what I was doing with the next generation groups. I got totally captivated by all things generational at work, and decided I wanted my focus to be more of that, although a large part of it still is the marketing and business development, because it's looking externally, attracting and retaining clients of different generations.
Mm-hmm.
And get along with them.
And do you think the technology that was used back in the days of the baby boomers or before that, and the technology used by the Generation X and Generation Y and the millennials and so on, do you think having different technology also affected it?
Yeah, I mean, I think more so. It wasn't so much until Generation X, who is overlooked much too much. It's a smaller generation, but they also have more money than the millennials, and why advertisers really have been neglecting them, it's really hard to understand in a rational way. But yeah, I think technology is part of it, but not only. How generations are really defined are not so much birth years. You know, you can have two people who were born on the same day, but in different geographic areas, or come from more conservative families or more liberal families, or more religious, or there are a lot of differences. So within a span of years. But what really determines generations are the formative influences, political, social, economic, and cultural, that they tend to share.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, it's usually confined within some number of years, but the way the Census Bureau defines some of those years, I don't exactly agree with all the time, because it doesn't make sense. For instance, if the boomers started in 1946 instead of 1942, that means those people from 42 to 45 don't relate to what was the traditionalist generation, which is also sometimes called silent. They weren't silent.
Or the surviving generation, like from the Great Depression. I think I can't think of the name of it, but that was like the best generation they had. I couldn't think of the name of it, though.
Yeah, it has some of those other names that I've already mentioned, or to call it the greatest generation.
Yes, that's what I was thinking of. Right.
Those are people that the Census Bureau defines as from 1925 to 45. And the boomers did not relate to the Depression, which they didn't live through. They didn't really live through the World War II.
Mm-hmm. And
they were thought of as fairly radical at that time in all those other ways, especially culturally. And they were the ones who were really very instrumental in the women's movement and the civil rights movement. Those are the kinds of things that really defined them more.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just have to say that everything is not a generational issue.
Right.
But I do believe that knowing the typical patterns of each of those generations is very helpful in getting along with people, in being a productive person.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it sounds like common ground in a way, too, that you were talking about boomers. I'm like one of those last of the boomers, but it feels like you're so close to Generation X, but I don't feel Gen X, to be honest with you. So it's just one of those borderline things, like in the way you are, in the way you're not. But, a lot of these threads, come together, and also, cross-generational. And how do we get the generations come together? And especially with the books by Phyllis Weiss Haserot, we'll talk about in just 1 minute. First, you listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. It's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is an illusion and those you love will be the first to go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has garnered great reviews and even evidence endorsed by Hollywood celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today before it goes missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Also, check out The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com on over 30 podcast platforms. Take us with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to The Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Follow The Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. And for great gift ideas for all generations across the board, go to Amazon.com and check out The Mike Wagner Show podcast for all kinds of goodies people will love. And you can also check out the Amazon.com/Me and Molson-Zia store for great books like Missing, Once, and Wrinkles, and cool merchandise, t-shirts, pop sockets, hoodies, and phone cases, and for every generation possible. Amazon.com/Me and Molson-Zia. Also, don't forget to support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, as well as PayPal and the mikewagnershow.com. Make sure you do so today. We're here with the amazing facilitator, marketing, business development strategist, and also the co-host of the Legacy Makers at Work podcast and author of the book, You Can't Google It, the compelling case of cross-generational conversation at work here on the Mike Wagner Show. And Phyllis, before we talk about your books as well, too, that you also, emphasize the 4 Ps as well, too, like with people, purpose, potential, and profits across the generations. Why are the 4 Ps so important?
Well, I think we feel that those things are more important every day, especially purpose is getting a lot of attention. And well, it should. I think a lot of people are leaving the jobs that they have and have realized that since the pandemic started. I think they realized it before, but they just either got fed up or saw that they could work perfectly well with much more flexibility, which they had been asking for a long time. Mm-hmm. So that's it. Potential to be not just what somebody has on their resume, but the people that you want to work with or hire or all of that, to look at, what other skills and traits they bring and how important diversity is, that teams are much more productive and innovative when there's diversity. Potential and profits, of course, everybody's concerned about profits. So the idea is that the first 3 Ps don't mean that you're going to take your eyes off the idea of a business making money or an individual earning money, but to think that those others are things that really pave the way better for making profits.
Mm-hmm. And I also thought about this too when it comes to the purpose and also potential as well too. The baby boomers are more into loyalty. It's like you hear about stories, or even before that, your goal is to work for a company 40 years, you move up the ladder, you retire and everything. And of course, you got the Generation X, Generation Y is, do what you can, you kind of move on and everything else. And then you got the other generations like the millennials, and I'm trying to think of the
Z. That is
Z. Okay. I was trying to think of the other generation where the more like, hey, I just want to do this task. If I'm bored, move on. So it seems like, what comes to mind too, that I thought of this. the attention spans. So do you think that could be a factor as well too when it comes to the whole thing, like with conflict as well too, like attention span? Because back in the day, it's like attention spans were very longer. Now it's like with the Generation Z and everything else, the attention span, you got to get their attention like 5 seconds or less, otherwise you lose them.
Well, I think that that's important. But what's really important to all the generations is that they have opportunity and they have flexibility and that they are able to speak their voice and have a seat at the table for decision making, especially anything that affects them. Mm-hmm. And so for that to be in management's hands, who only talks to each other, the top people, and not really having conversations with the people that report to them, and way down to, people who are entry levels. You've got to know what their expectations are. Tell them what your expectations are. And I think that orientation for anybody new who comes in at any level needs to be rethought. Mm-hmm. And who is involved, and to not just think of it as, well, I'll show you around what the office is like, and here are the benefits, and, whatever it is you're going to get, and fill out these forms. That's really the least of it. Mm-hmm. Really, what about the culture? What is it really like?
Where's the coffee machine? Where are the croissants? Where are the donuts? Hey, where are those games? Can I watch some YouTube on my break or something?
That's not what's important to people. Mm-hmm. And for a while, it seemed like the millennials were interested in those things. And they wanted to have more fun. But I think, and from my experience working with them, they really did want to put in a very good days, months, years, whatever it is, work. And people weren't just there to job hop. They wanted to know, where's my career path?
Yes, important.
What opportunity is there here? And if I have ideas, would you at least just listen to them? It's not like I expect everything that I'm talking about to happen or to get. They're not demands. But I want to know that you're listening. And a lot of that comes from how they were educated.
Oh, yes, important.
In teams, and they were listened to, and they were encouraged to ask questions. And by their parents, as the millennials' parents are mostly boomers, and they wanted them to ask questions. And by that time, really even earlier than that, the boomers realized that they weren't going to have the same job or work for the same company for years. And they were hopping around, or they were forced out.
Yes, that was another point too that's happening these days.
Ageism. But which is another thing I'm focusing on a lot with my made up word.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Ageism. Mm-hmm. Which is about getting all of the generations to fight ageism together. And that's ageism against younger people as well as older ones, and the ones in the middle who, as I say, are getting older every day as babies are. Mm-hmm. So age should not be a factor in whether a person is going to be a good employer or a consultant or somebody, outside provider. You really have to look into their skills and traits and all of that. And to get to the book that you love the title of, and I've used that title a lot of times, even before that. You can't Google it. Everybody laughs, smiles, chuckles when they hear it. But what I mean by that is that you can't learn, acquire, or practice the essential skills for success by going out to the internet. Mm-hmm. But it's all about the conversations and relationships you have with people that you work with or for, and especially cross-generational conversation, mm-hmm. and knowledge transfer.
Okay.
And we don't want people walking out or being forced out with the knowledge that they have not passed. And that includes the contacts they have. It's not only what you can put in a computer, but the things that are less tangible. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to lose those contacts with clients, with referral sources, with the people that you work with and get good work done.
Mm-hmm. And of course, most importantly, too, it's like not just engagement is important, but of course, looking at a little bit of the books and everything, you call it gen-gagement and also collaboratism and collaboratism manifesto. I hope I got those right.
Collaboratism.
Oh, I see why you made up those words. You can pronounce it better than I can. But anyway, let's learn about those.
Yeah. So, gen-gagement, another one of my books, which I was asked to write for the American Bar Association, that's Embrace Gen-gagement. And that's, how to be more, productive for your organizations. Mm-hmm. And that one is actually a series. The whole thing is checklists. Not a whole lot of prose to read. It's a short book. Ah. It gets into everything which I connect in one way or another to generational issues.
Hmm. So it's just like a whole checklist then, right?
Yeah, it starts out with a paragraph and the rest of it is bullet points.
Huh,
very easy to digest. There are action steps. Here's what the problems are and what do we do about it. I love writing in that form. My second book was The Marketer's Handbook of Tips and Checklists, and that was in that form, and people loved that. So I said, if I'm going to do this book that I was asked to do, I'm going to do it in that form.
Wow, that's really interesting. It almost sounds like an actual hands-on with the Embrace Gen-gagement and also the Marketer's Handbook and the Rainmaking machine as well too. And you wrote that a while back. And I guess from what I understand, there's must have been 20, 25, 30 editions maybe to go or something. 30. And it keeps raining.
There were 30. We've actually stopped it now. So 2021 is the last edition. It's huge. It's at least 1,600 pages.
Wow.
Because I was asked, there are all those editions because the business model of professional publishing was to turn out new editions all the time and sell them back to the people who bought the previous ones.
Huh. Interesting.
It doesn't work so well anymore. Mm-hmm. There aren't so many libraries that have paper copies of things.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I remember the good old library. I miss the days of just check out the book, actually have it in my hand. It's like I miss those days.
Yeah. Well, and especially, for instance, if you walk into a law firm, they used to buy year after year updates of whatever they needed. And then everything became digital.
Mm-hmm. And that's so amazing as well, too. And we'll talk about your book, You Can't Google It, in just 1 minute. You listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Also brought to you by official sponsor of The Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia Missing, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. We'll be back with the author and the multi-talented Phyllis Weiss Haserot with You Can't Google It after this time up.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention The Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Hey everybody, my name is Forbes Riley and I'm an American actress and a TV host, and I was delighted when I got my copy of Missing, which is Extraordinary Relation of Ordinary People based on a real life relationship. It's well written. It's amazing. You know, it talks about a man who has lost his wife and his daughter, and it's very well done. I'm going to highly recommend that you go get your copy of Missing. It is a powerful, exciting read. Mr. Mian Moshe-Zia. He is the author of Missing, and I want to give a big shout out and a kiss all the way halfway around the world to my dear friend. Check him out at Mia's website. It's called www.miamoshe-zia.com. Missing, available on Amazon. Again, I'm Forbes Riley, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Hey, this is Ray Powers, and boy, are you in luck. Right place, right time. Tuned in to The Mike Wagner Show. You heard me.
We're back with author Phyllis Weiss Haserot of You Can't Google It, the compelling case of cross-generational conversation work here on the Mike Wagner Show. And we cover the book a little bit. You Can't Google It. And of course, it's still an impressive book and maybe just a bit more. And, why is this, really, really needed and very important too?
Well, as I was saying before, the generations really need to speak with each other a lot more. And of course, during the pandemic, it's become even harder. People tend to be much more isolated in the work that they do. I mean, isolated in general, which is one of the reasons there's a lot of depression and burnout, and the youngest generation has a lot of mental illness issues. Mm-hmm. Which is really very sad. And I do a lot of mentoring, and we've got to do something about that. But not to get into that subject, because that's really take us on.
well, that'll be it for another time too. So,
yeah. But just to mention what I call You Can't Google It, the 10 essential traits and skills that you can learn, acquire, or practice by going out in the internet. I won't mention them all, but
or just a couple will be fine too.
We'll talk about some that I think are especially important now. Mm-hmm. Are trust, empathy, perspective, curiosity.
Oh, yes, important.
A super curious person. And you can't be a good networker or a business developer if you're not curious about other people and you know how to ask good questions and find out
important.
About them, and not just talk about yourself, because that's not what people like. You can't get people to like you by talking about yourself all the time. Plus, you don't learn anything if you're talking about yourself. Supposedly, you already know about yourself.
I've heard that before, believe it or not. And it is true. It's like, who wants to hear about a person themselves? You're better off just buying a book off of them.
Yeah. So, that's a very bad way to approach sales. Talking about yourself or networking. And it takes the pressure off you also if you're learning about somebody else. And it should be fun. It really should be. We need to bridge the gap of differences, whatever difference, whether it is generational or age or, race and gender, disabilities, and on and on and on. There are many differences, including differences of thought, which are very important. And
I was just thinking of that. Yes,
divisive everything is getting. It's really sad and depressing. But that's so. Some others are relevance, reciprocity, inspiration, forget it, whatever else. I can't always really all out. One of them is what I call transition fluidity, which is about succession planning and knowledge transfer. But those kinds of things that you really have to convey, but talking to other people, and of different generations, learning what they're all about, understanding that. And that's really what most of my work in recent years, well, actually since 2005, I started evolving more from the business development to the marketing to all things generational at work, which you can find out a lot about on my website, youcantgoogleit.com.
Okay.
Another website as well, an older one that's more on some of these other things, although still relevant. But if you're interested in the generations, hop on over to youcantgoogleit.com. Mm-hmm. And so what I really want to talk about is why I say that intergenerational issues and collaboration and all that, or the missing piece or a missing piece at the diversity, equity, inclusion table, decision-making table. They tend not to be focused on nearly as much, but I think that generational differences and their attitudes, the different generational attitudes, really inform and influence all the other diversity factors. And if you're giving the same messages out to everyone, they're not receiving it the same way. You know that, Mike.
Right. And of course, you say one thing and you get so many people interpret a lot different. I've been there and done that. It's like they'll interpret different and they'll react different. So it's like everyone's built different. So that's totally understandable.
And in most organizations, there just is not very much attention. There's a lot of complaints, from and conflicts or a lot of hype about one generation or another. I mean, the media loves to make it sound like they're all the different generations are fighting with each other, even about where you part your hair. I mean, it's so much nonsense, as if that was really what it was all about. And so they need to understand how important the significance of the differences are to how work gets done, whether it's about technology or just about how people go about it, and what's important to them, and not having people leave because they're frustrated about flexibility.
Right.
or their opportunities. And, there's what I've found in the programs that I've done, whether it's cross-generational conversation day programs or the forums that I've done. And when I get 3 generations at least talking to each other in groups, addressing certain issues or questions that I get from them or give to them, sometimes the organizers say, "Oh, they're not going to change their seats, one person, and to get into these groups and everything." And what I found is, I ask them to do it. They go do it. They plunge in. The conversations start, and they come out of it with greater awareness and want to do more. And I found that even in doing it for law associations, there were big turnouts, and even when they're in a room that doesn't work for that, when I ask them, they get up and they do it. And it's just people have preconceived notions about what people want. I think there's really a hunger for this. What's frustrating to me now, when everything or so much has had to be online, is that those kinds of things are harder to get going on Zoom, because even when you're in breakout rooms, you can't always know who's going to be there, and you want a mix of generations and all of that. So that's been very frustrating to me. But however it is that I can do it, I do it, and do a lot of programs that are either webinars or Zoom meetings that get us close to people learning about the significance of generational views to all kinds of things.
Yes.
It's just, I always laugh when people will say, "You have such an interesting little niche." And I go, "Little?" It seems to me it's, age and generations really related to everything.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And of course, I had someone tell me, "So aren't you too old to be using this?" I said, "I've been playing technology ever since I was a kid, like a little Fisher-Price phone, and just playing with a rotary phone." So...
Yeah, but it's about a lot more than technology.
It is too. And speaking of technology, you also are co-host of the podcast, Legacy Makers at Work podcast. We have a few minutes with Phyllis Weiss Haserot, and tell us more about the podcast.
Well, it's still in its early stages, but it's about the idea that people need to start thinking about how they want to be remembered at work, what influence they've had, how they have helped people's careers and the organizations that they work for and with in an intentional way. Everybody's going to be remembered about something. You can have a legacy that's terrible, and you're really, either embarrassed or really chagrined about that. We want to be thought of in a positive way, and we want to have a positive influence. And people shouldn't think they can wait till they're in their 60s or when they think they're going to leave. And I think, a lot of people are not going to stop working at what was the traditional retirement age. I can't imagine ever being in traditional retirement. I mean, I'm going forever, but people can choose however they want to live their life. But I think by the time people are in their 40s, they should start really thinking about this. It could be earlier, it could be later. I think when you first enter the workplace or the world of work, it's maybe a little too early.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get.
You just want to have your fun and everything. I totally understand that. I mean, we've all been through this, including myself. So,
right. Well, no, it isn't so much the fun. It's the idea of if you have no experience, and you haven't experienced things, you haven't done things, you haven't really found out what you're good at, not good at, what you like doing and what you don't like doing. I mean, you probably, when you're younger, you may have a totally erroneous idea about that. Plus, change is happening so fast that there are so many careers that there are, created every year. Mm-hmm. So there, you've got to see and you've got to try things out. Mm-hmm. So, you're not going to be starting to think about this. Well, you might be, but you might be wrong and change your mind as you go along, as what you want your legacy to be when you're 20. But by the time you are 40, and so we have guests talking about this. We talk about the process. I have a co-host. And she comes from it in a different way, or at least the market that she has worked with. And she comes from investment banking originally, and philanthropy and stuff. So that kind of legacy, but also coaching people on their careers. And you heard where I come from. So it's a good combination. We get along great. And the idea was that we are starting masterminds for which I came up with the name Legacy.
Okay.
Legacy Makers at Work maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and started writing about it. And the podcast, as you well know, has so many pieces to put together.
Hey, I've been doing this for a while. I know how it is.
Right. Well, that was originally supposed to be the promotional thing to get the word out about what the masterminds were about. But the podcast came out first. So we will be starting the mastermind soon.
Okay.
And would, love to get people interested in that. So they can contact me if they want to know about it. The podcast can be found wherever you get podcasts, not as many places as Mike, who is where I can't imagine, what he doesn't have covered, but where most people get their podcasts, and it's legacy
makers at work.com.
And
I think I got that. Yes.
The ad is an at sign.
Yes, that's it. Okay. Right. All right.
But the website for that is Legacy Makers, and it has to be AT work.
Okay. All right. We'll certainly check that out. We'll talk more about that in just a couple more minutes. Phyllis, who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
The biggest influence in my career?
Yes.
Maybe the willingness to try new things, my curiosity, and liking to innovate and see what happens.
Okay.
And my delight in working with people, interacting, and getting to know people who are different and think differently than I do.
Mm-hmm. I think that's very important as well, too, and that's a good thing. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
To be open.
Okay.
And to reach out to people that you maybe don't know all that well, and you might feel some fear or discomfort if they are not like you. but it's really going to pay off. And actually, I like to give a challenge when I am a guest on podcast. And that challenge is to reach out to 3 people of different generations from yours and start to talk with them and have a series of conversations. The first, if that goes well, and develop relationships. And these are people, since my focus is on work, people that you maybe don't on a day-to-day basis work with.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Or it could be that you didn't really know well and you're only focusing really on the task at hand.
Mm-hmm.
So try that with 3 people, and you will find that you develop more and more comfort as time goes on.
Okay.
And let me know how it goes.
Sounds good. We'll certainly do that. We're up to the challenge. We're here with Phyllis Weiss Haserot of You Can't Google It on the Mike Wagner Show. Phyllis, a very big thank you for your time. You've been totally amazing. I learned a lot from you, and looking forward to having you again soon. Make sure you keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Looking forward to having you back. And tell us what you got coming up for 2022 and beyond. And once again, what's your website? How do people contact you? And where can people purchase or check out your books, and especially the podcast?
Okay. I think I gave you where the podcast is, and you can, you can Google that.
Yes. So, you can, but you can't. You can this time. You can, guys. You can.
You can Google it. I imagine you'll have in show notes, Mike, or something. Please ask me questions. I love to hear from you. So my email is pwhas as in Sam, EROT at pdcounsel, that's COUNSEL.com. The website that I gave you is youcantgoogleit.com. And, well, let's see, what else do we want?
And of course, your books are available at where? Your other books?
You Can't Google It is on Amazon. And the others, I think the ABA still has embraced engagement. I'm not sure if they have that there yet, but if you contact me, I can tell you where to get it. The American Bar Association likes to keep things for themselves for a while. It will go on all the online places if it hasn't already. I've got to check. I'm also very active on LinkedIn. Connect with me there. So that's LinkedIn/in/PW Haserot.
Okay. We certainly will do so. Once again, Phyllis, a very big thank you for your time. I learned a lot from you. You're totally amazing. Looking forward to having you again soon. Make sure you keep in touch, and we definitely wish you all the best. You've been absolutely terrific. It's great having you on.
It's been great fun. Thank you so much for inviting me. And it's been my pleasure.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention The Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your your image to the next level.
Hey everybody, my name is Forbes Riley, and I'm an American actress and a TV host. And I was delighted when I got my copy of Missing, which is Extraordinary Relation of Ordinary People based on a real life relationship. It's well written. It's amazing. You know, it talks about a man who has lost his wife and his daughter, and it's very well done. I'm going to highly recommend that you go get your copy of Missing. It is a powerful, exciting read. Mr. Mian Moshe Zia. He is the author of Missing. And I want to give a big shout out and a kiss all the way halfway around the world to my dear friend. Check him out at Mia's website. It's called www.miamoshenzea.com. Missing, available on Amazon. Again, I'm Forbes Riley, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, anchorfm, Radio Public, and themikewagnershow.com. Please support our program with your donations at themikewagnershow.com. Join us again next time for another great episode of The Mike Wagner Show.